Hi everyone, my name is Leanne and today I'm going to be bringing you a reading vlog. Now I don't do many reading vlogs on this channel, but when I have done them I've really enjoyed them. And today I'm going to be doing a reading vlog that I don't think I've ever really seen anyone do, and it's quite a niche topic, I guess. One of my favourite kind of subsections of non-fiction reading is books that are about gender and sexuality and bodies, and there were a lot of books on my TBR that are specifically about vaginas. So I'm going to read those books and take you along on the journey with me. I don't know over what time period I'm going to do this vlog. I think doing all of these books in one weekend, I think reading them all in one weekend would be a bit much. And also something I want to say right at the start of this video is that I'm going to try and be as trans inclusive with my language as possible. I am aware that having a vagina is not synonymous with being a woman. Not all women have vaginas. There are some non-binary people and men who do have vaginas. If that is not something that you agree with, I would encourage you to do some more research and listen more to the trans community about their experiences. But this channel is a place where trans people are welcomed and celebrated. And also, if I do get anything wrong throughout this video, do feel free to tell me. I know it's not anyone else's job to educate me, so I'm going to try and educate myself as much as possible and make sure the language that I'm using is inclusive. Before we get to the reading, I'm going to go through my shelves and show you what books I'm going to pick out. So this is the first book I'm going to read. This is Vagina, Re-Education by Leanne. I think this will be a great book for me to start with. In fact, I've already made a little bit of a dent into it. I've only read about 50 pages or so. After that, the next book I want to read is Period Power by Maisie Hill. In fact, you can see how much I like vaginas by this little felt vagina I've got here. Although this is a vulva, not a vagina. We need to use correct terminology. I'm planning on reading this when I'm on my period. Let's see how that one goes. The next one I want to read is The Birth of the Pill by Jonathan Aig. I know there are more up-to-date books on the pill now, but I think I would still like to read this one. I've recently come off the pill. I'd also really like to read Behind Closed Doors by Natalie Fines, which is a book about sex education. This won't solely be about vaginas, I guess, but I mean, look at the cover, guys. I've got to add it to the pile. This is More Orgasms, Please by the Hotbed Collective. I have already read this one, but I think it warrants rereading, to be honest, so it's a bit of a maybe for now. So these are the books that I'm planning on reading. I do have a book that I've got digitally as well, which is about FGM, and I would like to read that one as well. So anyways, I'm going to carry on reading this one and let you know my thoughts as I go. There's a passage in this book, like right at the start, it's on page 5, that I just wanted to read to you guys because it's kind of what I'm hoping will come across in this video and how I want it to be as inclusive of trans experiences as possible. I am cisgender, meaning that my gender identity corresponds with the assumed gender assigned to me at birth. I am a non-disabled, neurotypical white woman from Ireland, educated in a Catholic school, currently in a monogamous, long-term relationship with a cisgender man. Throughout the research for this book, I have spoken to a variety of women and people with vaginas, as well as scientists, doctors, experts, so that I can represent a broad experience as well as my own story. I know, however, that I will not be able to tell everyone's story. It is my sincere hope, though, that this book will make it easier for all of us to share our stories. I want to tell you my story. I want for you to be able to tell your story. I know that not everyone who has a vagina is a woman. I know that there are women who do not have a vagina. I recognise that we are living in a time where there is, especially among young people, an increased reluctance to see sexuality and gender as fixed and binary. I think that will only be a good thing for vaginas and people who have them. I know that we are coming up with words and terms to reflect this changing outlook, but as I write this in late 2018, we are limited. This book generally refers to cisgender girls and women when it says girls and women, largely because I am constrained by currently available data and research. Similarly, I do not have the data required to consistently include the experiences of trans men and non-binary people in discussions about menstruation, orgasm, and pregnancy. I think that's something that's really important to acknowledge. Like, there is such a lack of data around the experiences of vaginas and people who have them. But what research we do have is so focused on cisgender people, and I think it's very easy for me, being a cisgender woman, to be like, yeah, let's reclaim the vagina and not be scared of saying the word vagina and saying the word vulva and having, you know, art prints and little felt vulvas. Like, in many ways it is so easy for me to celebrate my vulva. I don't get asked intrusive questions about my genitalia in the same way that trans people do. I think back at when I was at university and we always used to like graffiti little vulvas in places, like especially on like toilets on nights out in pubs and stuff. And I wonder, who was that really serving? Who was that really benefiting? Was seeing that actually damaging for any trans people who were using that toilet, you know? I have to read this bit to you guys because it's made me laugh so much. I'm not going to read you the whole book, I promise. The Italian anatomist Rialdo Colombo is often credited with discovering the clitoris, writing in 1559 that the love of... oh, it doesn't matter what he actually said. However, his contemporary, Gabriele Falloppio, who identified and gave his name to the fallopian tubes, claims that he had discovered the clitoris some years earlier. This is something that the author acknowledges, but like, there is no way that these men discovered the clitoris in the 1500s. I'm pretty sure quite a few women knew that it was there already. So, John Harvey Kellogg, as in like cornflakes, has a legacy of suppressing and shaming women's sexuality. He was a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church for most of his life. He never consummated his marriage, and he believed that female masturbation was responsible for a range of problems, including mental illness, birth defects, and cancer. He was the chief medical officer at a sanatorium run by the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and prescribed certain sleeping positions to discourage masturbation. He advocated for the use of bandages and ties to restrict children from masturbating, and when that didn't work, he suggested the use of a cage. He also advised FGM and the burning of the clitoris with carbolic acid. I might need a break. Are cornflakes cancelled? Are Kellogg's cancelled? Can I never eat Cocoa Puffs again? This is so stressful. You know when you've been putting off a book because you know you're gonna love it? And that doesn't seem to make sense, because if you know you're gonna love it, why would you be putting it off? I know, it doesn't make sense to me either, but I do it all the time. This book's so good. I found it really helpful, all of the sections it was broken down into. Hold on, let me show you. So it starts with like very specific like parts of the vulva and the vagina. So like there's a chapter on the hymen and kind of all the misconceptions around that. There's a bit on the clitoris, and then it goes into like more specific things like orgasm, how things look, periods, pain. I found the chapter on pain so interesting. And then it goes into things like fertility and pregnancy and menopause, and then the final chapter touches on some really interesting things in relation to the trans community. And I suppose some of the things I spoke about when I first started reading this book, like how it's very easy for me to kind of encourage people to speak about their vaginas, and not everyone who has a vagina might want to do that. I think this was totally the best book for me to start this with, because while it was all extremely well researched, there were definitely aspects of it where I was like, oh, I would like to learn a little bit more about this. And what I really found about this book was it felt like a rallying cry, like especially towards the ends of the chapters. Lynn Enright is just such a fantastic writer, and she controls the pace of these chapters so superbly. I mean, I read this book in 2 sittings. It was so captivating. I just feel like I want to go out and change the world, you know? And I just feel like that's the perfect start to this reading vlog for me, because it's really spurred me on to read more books about more of these kind of specific topics. I feel like the book I want to read next is really the book on periods. But I did say I wanted to read that book when I was on my period. I don't know if that's a good idea or a terrible idea. But having just come off the pill, I don't think I can reliably predict when my period's gonna be. Maybe I should read the book that's about the pill. Okay, just looking at the contents of these chapters, I mean, they're just, the chapter titles, they're so funny. I really like this instructional bit on how to use the book. So the first section of the book is like the science stuff, like an explanation of everything. And then like the second section is like, how do you actually put this into practice and implement it? And I think like this isn't a book that's just about like learning more about periods and that kind of thing. It's actually about implementing, I guess, structures into how to make your period work best for you. And I think that's really interesting. Hello, it has now been several weeks since I spoke to you in this vlog. I don't know what happened. I did start whatever the book about periods is called, Period Power. I did start that, but it was kind of like you have to be quite actively reading it. Like you really do need to engage with it, which I know I should be doing, especially because like one of the reasons I want to read that book in particular is because like my cycle is going to be changing since I've come off the pill. I have noticed a couple of things. I mean, I don't know how much you want to know about my period, but I'm guessing if you've made it this far in this video, you've realized that this isn't like a sexy vagina video. And you're probably the kind of person that is interested in hearing about other people's periods. To be fair, nothing on the kind of actual like bleeding front that is particularly different, but I've been getting more migraines. My skin's a lot worse, I think, but even at that, like my skin isn't a huge issue. It's just like not as good as it normally is. I think the migraines are the biggest difference I've noticed, but my body will still be like getting used to the changes. Like I've not been off the pill for that long. Anyway, what am I reading today? Today is actually Halloween, and I normally love Halloween. But the things I love about Halloween tend to be like the social aspects, so that's not happening in the moment. What I am going to be reading today is Behind Closed Doors by Natalie Fines, which is a book all about sex education. I wasn't sure when I would get to reading this one because I thought it was going to be quite academic, but I've read 2 other books in this Outspoken series from Pluto Press. And while they dealt with some really interesting, thought-provoking, important topics and dealt with them in a lot of depth, they weren't difficult to read at all. So I think I'm probably going to read this one in like 1 sitting or 2 sittings maybe. That's what I read the other 2 books in this series in. I am going to make some coffee first though. I don't know if you guys have tried this coffee, like this Beanies brand of coffee, but they do like really cool different like flavored coffees, and they are the most like basic bitch thing in the world, and they're probably overpriced for what they are, but I love them. I'm already doing so much learning with this book because, so after the First World War, obviously loads of men died fighting for their country or whatever, which plunged their wives and families into poverty. So a lot of women turned to sex work to be able to provide for their family. This is based in Great Britain, and sex work was illegal. And in fact, in 1918, regulation gave power to the police to medically examine any woman that they suspected to be a prostitute. This is a pro-sex work zone, just FYI. Anyway, on with the book. It is now the next day, and I did not film any more content yesterday because I'm a bad vlogger. I finished reading the book, and then I got dressed up as Misty from Pokemon for Halloween just to sit on a Zoom call and watch Strictly with some friends. Can I just start by saying I love this series of books. Like, all 3 of the books that I've read from this series have been fantastic, and I would like more, please. Pluto Press, can you please provide? What I will say is this book is not what I thought it was. I thought this book was going to be a book about sex education. So like the formalized education or lack thereof that people have in like schools or maybe universities throughout the world. Like, that's what I thought this book was about. That's not what it's about. It does go into like the history of sex education in the introduction, but that's not what this book is about. This book is itself a sex education. So some of the topics in this include like sexual consent, contraception, body image, the concept of virginity, sexuality, pornography, sex work, and it's a really nuanced exploration of those ideas, and it definitely gave me a lot of things to think about, which is really fantastic, because I think because I'm someone who's quite well read on these topics, sometimes it does feel like I'm reading the same book over and over again, but this was like super nuanced. It gave me so much to think about. It was really intersectional in its depictions of these kind of topics. Like, it was really inclusive of like trans experiences. It was really inclusive of the experiences of people of color. It was really fantastically researched. Obviously, this wasn't just a book about vaginas. It was about vaginas and penises and any form of genitalia. The author used really specific examples to illustrate what she was talking about as well, which was really helpful. Honestly, I cannot recommend this book enough. I think it was fantastic, and it's definitely one that I would love to reread this, which really is the sign of a favourite book for me. I don't know what else I'm going to be doing today. It is now the 1st of November. I am going to be making a slow cooker jambalaya, which I'm quite excited for. Don't know if I'm going to be reading any other vagina books today, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Another weekend, another book about fannies. Because I am currently with menstruation, I thought I should dive back into period power. I did read a little bit of this last month, but it's not an easy read. Like, you do have to be very sort of active when you're reading it. Like, you can't be reading it passively. You really do need to be like taking it in, and you also have to be kind of actively taking on the steps that it encourages you to do with regards to like tracking your cycle and stuff. I did try and track my cycle last month. I made a spreadsheet, and because I need to have a spreadsheet for everything, and I was quite good at tracking like my mood and like any symptoms or like how I was feeling or whatever on my period, but like the rest of the cycle, not so much. But I suppose it's like, it's habit building, isn't it? You don't need to be perfect at it right away, as long as you're trying to build the habit. Anyway, I have got a cuppa, I got my book, so let's go do some reading. Okay, so what I love about the idea of tracking your cycle is basically like the whole premise of this book is how to make your menstrual cycle work for you. Like, yes, it fucking sucks when you're on your period, but how do we deal with the cards that we've been dealt to make the most of them? And when you're tracking your cycle, I guess the idea is hopefully you'll be able to spot patterns. So say like, at this phase in my cycle, I felt really sleepy, I really wanted to go for naps. And then you will know moving forward around that time in your cycle, if that emerges as a pattern, to give yourself a nap on those days. You might know the days that you are feeling really grumpy and antisocial, so you won't make plans to go for dinner on that day. You might be able to tell the people that you lived with or your partner or whoever, I feel like around this time of the month I just want to be left alone. So it would minimize things like you feeling inexplicably in a bad mood or grumpy or frustrated with the people around you. Like, there would be an explanation for that now, rather than it just being for no reason at all. So here's another thing as well. So obviously the world has changed a lot over the course of 2020, and one of the things that has massively changed is people who work in offices realizing that we can do our jobs pretty effectively from home, like very effectively from home. And I think even when we are back in offices like regularly, working from home won't be as big of a deal anymore. I think like before Rona, I felt like if I was going to work from home, I needed to have like a really, really good reason to do so. And I feel like moving forward, it's going to be a lot more accepted and normalized to just kind of work at home when it works for you, and, you know, providing it works for everyone else in your team for you to not be in the office. I would love to work from home when I'm on my period. I really would. And it's just like an idea at the moment, and obviously it would kind of depend on circumstances, and if I actually wanted to do this, I would obviously discuss it with the my line manager. I would feel completely comfortable talking to anyone I work with about this. But I feel like for me, it would make so much sense for me to work from home when I'm on my period, because I mean, you could have a nap on your lunch break. It's like a 20-minute power nap, which I think would be really beneficial to me when I'm on my period. When I'm on my period, I'm very low energy. If I'm kind of hobbling with period cramps in the office, I don't know, this is a bit awkward, but if I'm doing that in my own house, it's not awkward. But the main thing is I get really, really hot when I'm on my period, like physically warm. Like I know everyone's body temperature raises when they're on their period. I get so warm, and I have fainted on the tube multiple times when I'm on my period. So the idea of getting on the tube when I'm menstruating is just, I hate it. I've always dreaded it, and it would be nice if that just wasn't a problem anymore, you know? Now the book has literally just suggested work from home. This is revolutionary.
Hello. So today is going to be the penultimate day of this reading vlog. It might be the last day, depends if I get through the 2 books that I want to finish. I don't think I'm going to reread More Orgasms Please or The Birth of the Pill just yet, because I feel like this vlog has gone on for a little while now. But I do have about 150 pages left of Period Power, so I do want to finish this. And I also want to read Are You Coming?, which is a book about orgasms. I may also read the book that I have about FGM, but there are a few more books that I spoke about at the start of this vlog that I haven't got around to reading yet. So if you guys have enjoyed this reading vlog, oh, I feel so nervous about uploading this, then please do let me know, and then maybe we can do a round 2, and I'm sure I will get more books added to my TBR that fit this kind of theme. Maybe we could do one that is like specifically books about sex, so it's like inclusive of people with penises as well. But for now, I'm going to read a little bit more of this. Actually, first I need a wee.
I walk to you so I can be close to you. It's really simple if you look at it that way. Time that we get by with money we don't know. Pockets empty but hearts are full anyway. Hey. Playing like children and love like R and J. You were too good for me, but I wanted you anyway. I always loved you over my head, even when you lived alone to make your parents mad. Say goodbye to your old life, turn the page, fall on my bed. I don't care if loving you over my.
So I've just read a section that is all about the fact that not everyone who menstruates is a woman. You know, there are trans men, there are non-binary people who menstruate, and it was about how periods can really like trigger gender dysphoria. And while I feel like I knew that in theory, I'd never really stopped to think about it so much. Going to a public bathroom can be so stressful for trans people, and I knew that, but I'd never actually thought about it in terms of like needing to change, say, a tampon in a men's bathroom. Like, I guess they don't have the bins in the cubicles, and it kind of comes back to what I spoke about briefly at the start of this video, in that it is very easy for someone like me to be like, yeah, you should celebrate your vulva, you should love your vulva. I'm someone that always really encourages people to like understand their periods. You know, if you use a menstrual cup, you can really get a visual insight into what your period is like. I've always thought, you know, it's really important for people with vaginas to also understand their discharge. And I guess things like that, and especially periods, must just make trans people and people who experience gender dysphoria so aware of, I guess, the fact that their body does match their idea of themselves, their sense of self, you know? Also in this section, it was basically about like the changes that your body can go through and your cycle can go through. So there was stuff about like going through puberty, so when like your periods first start. There was stuff about hormonal contraception, there was stuff about fertility and pregnancy, there was stuff about menopause. The whole time I've been doing this reading vlog has been a time where I'm kind of hyper aware of my body and its changes because I've been coming off the pill. And I feel like overall I've just had such a positive experience coming off the pill. There have definitely been negatives, like don't get me wrong. I have noticed that my skin is a little worse, like I mentioned. I have noticed that around my period I get much worse headaches. I think my emotions have fluctuated quite a lot, but I think because of like external factors, I've had a couple of months where I've experienced really high highs and really low lows, and it's difficult to kind of figure out what emotional changes have actually come from coming off the pill. And even though there have been those negative impacts of coming off the pill, I just feel so good about my decision. We know so little about long-term impacts of the pill. This book does talk about the fact that obviously there are hugely negative side effects that have been associated with the contraceptive pill for people with penises, and you know, nobody's saying that those negative side effects aren't legitimate reasons why that pill shouldn't be taken to market, but the side effects are pretty much the same as the side effects for taking the contraceptive pill that is targeted towards people with uteruses. So, like this book does acknowledge, like, if the pill for people with uteruses was taken to market now, like, would it pass those clinical trials? We know so little about the long-term effects of that pill, and I feel better now just allowing my body to do its own thing. I think overall it's just been a really positive experience. Lucy Moon did do a video recently about her experiences of coming off the pill, and she came off the same pill that I came off, so I will leave her video linked down below in the description if you want to check that one out as well, if you're interested in those kinds of things. I don't have too much of the book left now, so I'm going to plough through to the end.
So, this book took a slight turn for me. This section that is all about self-care, it has really started quite heavily about like looking after your body generally, and there's a lot about what food you should have and what nutrients you should have, what types of food you should be eating at what time of day. And I do understand that like all of that stuff is linked to your cycle in some capacity, like, you know, it's all going into your body, everything is influencing everything else. But as someone who has a history of having a very difficult relationship with food, I really do not appreciate someone being like, these are the foods you should eat and these are the times of day you should eat. I'm just glad that I'm eating food, honestly. And you know, I am aware that it is important to have particular nutrients, particular vitamins, but this section has just felt slightly overwhelming for me. I really don't appreciate being told this is what you should be eating, as if it's just simple. I honestly think I might just skip over the rest of this section because someone else might find it really helpful if they don't have issues with food, but I do. And if some days all I can manage to eat is a pot of noodles, then so be it. I don't really care if I've not got any nutritional value from it. I'm just glad that I'm not in pain from having not eaten. And I'm not saying that's something that I don't want to work on. It's something that I've been working on for many years, and I'm in a much better place with it than I have been for a long time. It is something that I do need to continuously work on, but I don't know, I'm gonna skip the rest of this section.
So it is about 90 seconds since I spoke to you last. As soon as I put the camera down, someone rang the doorbell and I was like, what is this? Opened the door, had a package arrive, hadn't ordered anything, but you know, it's giving season, my birthday's coming up, so there have been some like packages that have arrived, and I've opened this one and it was such a surprise and I'm so excited and it's made me so happy. And just in the most beautiful narrative arc, the lovely Shar has got me 2 books. I'll leave Shar's channel link down below in the description. She is absolutely amazing. Oh, what an absolute doll. I think after going through that slightly uncomfortable experience reading that food section of that book, oh, this is just
just cheered me up so much. And it just suits the theme of the video so much. So this is Hormonal by Eleanor Morgan. And I think this book is particularly about how things like PMS and hormones and periods relate to your mental health, which is really interesting. And this, I am so excited to read this. So this is Getting Off by Erica Garza, and it is about one woman's experiences with sex and porn addiction. And I think we think about those things as very, like, when we think about those things, we generally only really think about men, and it can impact women too. So I'm so excited to read both of these. Oh my goodness, thank you, Shar, thank you so much. Obviously I'm gonna actually like thank her, not just through a reading vlog, but oh, I'm so happy. Oh, this has fully cheered me up. I'm gonna have to do a part 2 to this video now, aren't I? Whew, I need a brew after that. Hello, I've got myself a cuppa. I got myself a cup of the biscuit tea that Yorkshire Tea have made, which I don't know if you can still get it anymore. The box I've had has been around a little while, but I love it. It's not like an everyday tea for me, but it's a nice little treat. Perfect to enjoy with Are You Coming, which I'm going to be reading on my Kindle. As I've said, this is a book all about orgasm. I'll report back and tell you if I've learned anything. Okay, wow, okay, so this book is a super quick book to get through. Like, it's really short, it's really breezy, but there is a lot of new information in there. Like, did you know that you can have 13 different kinds of orgasm? I'm talking about people with vaginas and vulvas. Like, there's 13 different kinds. Not all of them are related to that area, but the book is focused on people with vaginas and vulvas. 13 different kinds. There are, like, I knew a few of them, but there were some of them. Jesus. And it's very much like how you achieve those particular kinds of orgasm. A lot of us have heard of the G-spot. Did you know there's a U-spot? So I'm naturally going to compare this to More Orgasms Please by the Hotbed Collective, which I think is more kind of about reclaiming sexuality and taking charge of your own pleasure, examining why the orgasm gap exists and how that orgasm gap can be broken down. This is very much more about like trying to achieve these different kinds of orgasm and how you can try and achieve these different kinds of orgasm. And I don't want to say like it's a book for like sex experts, but I think to get something out of this book, you have to have more of a, like, more than a kind of passing interest in this, you know? Like, the author does say that some of these orgasms are very difficult to achieve. And honestly, that sounds like a lot of effort to me, but it is good. Like, I have enjoyed it. I am feeling some emotions. Oh, this is just so nice. So just now another package arrived. When this package arrived, like, my mum, I could feel her judgment, and I was like, Rose, I didn't order anything. Please believe me. I feel quite emotional, honestly. This has just arrived, which is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. It's in the beautiful Penguin English Library edition, which I collect. And this was sent to me by the wonderful Shannon, over 155 books, and I'm just, oh, thank you. While we're on the topic of gifted books as well, the other day this arrived. This is Love in Colour by Bolu Babalola, which I think are like mythical retellings and love stories, and this was sent to me by the wonderful Aoife from Words of Clover. Again, everyone's channel in the description, who is just like my OG, my original booktube hun. So happy. I'd had a really horrible day because a boy had hurt my feelings. Can you imagine? The fucking audacity. And this arrived in the evening, and it just cheered me up so much, and it was a gift to celebrate my new job, which I haven't really spoken about on the channel yet. But I probably will do a full video at some point talking about my new job, which I'm very excited about. I'm really feeling the love, guys. And this is a lovely way to shepherd the end of this reading vlog. We're not quite done yet, but we are in the home stretch.
You talk to me like breeze, running free, beautiful images everywhere. Yeah. You take a picture of us kissing in cars. It makes my day 10 times better. Yeah. Playing like children and love like orange. You were too good for me, but I wanted you anyway. I always loved you
So yeah, Are You Coming is very much like, it is sex tips. And that includes solo sex, it includes queer sex. It's very good at being inclusive of lots of different people's sexual preferences. But yeah, it is like fundamentally advice on how to orgasm. Like there's a whole section on different positions and the different types of orgasm they will help you achieve. It was a super quick read, it was fun. I don't know how much I've kind of taken from it immediately. You know, some of us don't need tips. That's not true, everyone needs tips. As I said earlier, I did step away from reading Period Power just because that food section kind of threw me off a little bit. But I do want to finish it either tonight or tomorrow, and then I will read the book that I also have on my Kindle about FGM, and I think that'll be it.
Say goodbye to your old life, turn the page, follow my bed. I don't care if loving you over my...
Oh man. So, this book is incredible. I had to stop filming myself when I was reading it, because I don't know if you can tell by my face, but I've just had a big cry. And I can't even fully articulate how reading this book has made me feel. I do highly recommend reading this book, but do go into it, I think, when you're feeling in quite a secure place, because it is very difficult to read. The author does go into quite a bit of detail about the mutilation she experienced and what her life was like after that. It is quite graphic, obviously in absolutely no way comparable to actually going through it, but it was difficult to read about. And I think it's one thing, like, having the knowledge in my head, knowing that obviously FGM is a terrible, terrible thing. There's another thing, someone telling you about their own experiences in detail. It's really harrowing. I am glad that I'm reading it. I really am. Right, let's read a little bit more of it and then we'll reconvene.
I've just finished reading it and I had another big cry after I finished it, and there were points in me reading it which I'm gonna cut out of the vlog just because the world doesn't need to see me crying, where I was just sat there weeping. It's been another instance that has just reminded me how it being comparatively so easy for me to be the way I am about body confidence and body celebration. Like, comparatively, that is just, it's so easy for me to be the type of person that has an art print that is a vulva, but it kind of looks like a flower, and a little felt vulva on my bookshelf. Go to the Vagina Museum in Camden when it's open and it looks like I'm not wearing a top. I am wearing a top, I promise. It's just comparatively so easy for me to be that way, and yeah, it's just given me a lot of things to think about. I don't think like vulva-centric feminism is that productive. I think I have progressed quite away from the student who used to graffiti little vulvas in bathrooms. I remember when I was at university as well, we did pumpkin carving and I carved a vulva into a pumpkin. I am just very celebratory, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. And I would never change that about myself. But I think I do just need to bear in mind that not everyone has the same experiences that I've had, and many of the experiences I've had are very privileged. I think I just need to always bear that in mind. I'm gonna go to bed now, and in the morning I'm gonna do a little roundup of all of the books that we've spoken about in this video. So yeah. So we have made it to the end of this reading vlog. Congratulations if you're still here with me. I am both impressed and grateful, and I love you. If you've made it this far, I would like you to leave me the emoji that you think most resembles a vagina. I'm sat at my desk at the moment, I'm wrapped in a blanket, I'm very cold, and I just wanted to quickly look back on all of the books that I read over the course of this reading vlog, starting way back when I read Vagina, A Re-Education by Leanne. This was such a fantastic book to start this little reading vlog with, because it was both informative and entertaining, but I think it also kind of set the tone of me wanting to learn more about particular topics that were included in this that weren't gone into as much depth as I would have liked. So it was a really great starting point, and I highly recommend this book. What did I read then? I read Behind Closed Doors, Sex Education Transformed by Natalie Fines. This was a book that was different from what I expected it to be, but it was still super informative and interesting. It was really nuanced and made me look at topics in ways that I never had before. Again, it's one that I really recommend, but I would like a book
about what I thought this book would be, which is like the history of sex education and sex education as like a field, you know? Next, of course, we had Are You Coming Yet? Which was an entertaining read. Super short, really well put together. Kind of blew my mind slightly. 13 different kinds of orgasm. I had no idea. Then we have Period Power by Maisie Hill, which there is a lot that I took from this book in a positive way. There are definitely like things that I would like to take from this book and implement into my life, but I really wish the self-care chapter wasn't in there. Not only was there the food stuff, which I spoke about earlier in the vlog, but there was also so much stuff about why particular plastics or materials in makeup are really bad for your health, how you should be having organic food. She even warns against hand sanitizer, which is kind of laughable at the moment. And while there are aspects of tracking your cycle and taking charge of your cycle and making it work best for you and understanding your cycle that I think are really valuable and can be a huge force for positive change in your life, I do think there's an aspect of this book that just puts pressure on people who menstruate to have the perfect period. You know, if you're not having all of this organic fruit and veg, if you're not avoiding all of these plastics, if you're not avoiding these particular products, then you are failing at improving your period. And that's something that I don't think any person who menstruates needs to feel like. And I think there are wider positives to, you know, cutting down on particular plastics. Obviously from an environmental standpoint, that's really fantastic. But I think this book also feels like it's coming from a remarkably privileged position. Like, if I'm not eating organic vegetables, am I failing? That's kind of how this book made me feel. Like, I'm failing myself and not taking care of myself properly just because I'm not able to attain these ridiculous standards that seems to be set. I do think there is so much of value in this book and there is so much that I'm going to take from it, but not all of it. And then finally, the book I finished last night was Cut by Hibbo Wadira. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because you heard my thoughts just as I finished it. This is an absolutely remarkable book, and I think if there's one book from this reading vlog that I would like to encourage you to read, it is that one. If you feel like you're in the position where you are able. So many content warnings come with this book, but I think if you are in the kind of comfortable mental state where you feel like you would be able to read about this topic, then I would really encourage you to. It's phenomenally written, it's so honest, it's so heart-wrenching, but I think it's such an important topic that we can all be educated more on. All of the books that I've spoken about in this vlog will be linked down below in the description if you want to find out more about them. And that is it. That's all I'm going to talk about today. I hope you guys are doing well. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this vlog. It means genuinely the world to me. Do not forget to leave me an emoji that resembles a vagina. That would make my day. If you're new here, I promise I don't always just talk about vaginas. Although I do quite a bit. Right, I'll stop waffling on. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys are well and I will talk to you in my next video.